All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start out by sharing my desktop here. And let's see, let me get back in there. Sharing. All right, share my screen. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my, let me close out the little things I don't want to see there. Okay, you guys should be able to see my RIP queue. And like I said, occasionally I'm going to kind of go in there and try to make sure that I'm going through and muting you guys, but if you could just please manage that yourself, that'd be a lot more easier for me than having to go in there and do that. So, all right, so we'll get started. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be recording these sessions, so we'll be sharing this out to you guys once we get them all processed down and rendered. So right now we're going to take a look at working with quick sets. So our title is Automation Using Quick Sets. And some of you might be familiar with quick sets. Some of you, it might be something new that you're not used to or you know just a little bit about. So we're going to go through these steps very simple and basically through our workflow. Digital printer, Marcus. Okay, a few more people are still joining. Let's see here. Like I said, I just want to make sure you guys go through and self-mute yourselves. Okay, all right. Let's see. So when we think about bringing our files into the RIP software, one of the things that comes to mind immediately is the quick set. So when I go into Open and I pick a certain file here, I'm immediately going to see my choice here for this quick set. Now, we always will have a default quick set. No matter what we do, we're going to see default. And so that's a given, and we cannot delete default, and we cannot rename default. However, we can make other quick sets and give them their own unique names. So the purpose of the quick set is that it is going to control how we RIP this file. There are a few different things that you might do on a day-to-day basis repeatedly, and the quick set could do that for you automatically and save you the time of doing those manual steps. And that's the idea behind it. So right here we can see that there's just a default quick set. When I bring this file in, the file is going to come in, it's going to have it generate a preview, begin the RIP, and then be ready to be used. So when we're looking at things in this fashion, we're thinking about what are some of the types of controls you might want to adjust or set to have that happen automatically and apply automatically. That's where the quick set comes into play. All right, so go ahead and just get a couple of you guys muted here. All right, wonderful. So where we want to make a quick set or edit a quick set or modify it or delete a quick set or import or export for backing up data, where we go to control all aspects about our quick set is going to be up at the top under Configure Printer. Now, quick sets are printer specific. I could have a quick set in one of my printers that's unique compared to the other printers. They might not have the same list of types of commands I want to do. So I'm just going to go up here to the top to Configure Printer. A menu comes up. This is going to shut my server down. Now, what this means is we're going to go offline. So I'm going to say yes. We'll go offline. Okay, and now you'll see the first tab here is our Quick Sets tab. There is a default Quick Set. Again, you'll notice on the right, I cannot delete this. Oh, hang on. I got to get the, Mr. Where are you here? EA House muted. Okay. So you'll notice that in the Quick Set, there's a default, and we cannot delete this. If I select that and edit, you'll notice the top, I cannot rename it. So that's some hard set, fast rules about the default Quick Set. When you think about this, it's going to make sense. If I was able to delete that, technically I could have no Quick Sets in my directory. Well, that's impossible because I have to be able to RIP a file with some set of instructions, which is where these Quick Sets come into play. So if I simply edit this Quick Set, I'll pull this to the right a little bit. Okay, this is our default Quick Set main menu. Okay, you can see some basic things in here at the very top. Get median page size from printer is checked on by default, meaning over on the far right side of the screen, current median page size, whatever material I have loaded here, this is going to automatically generate and use that data. So the information that's selected is automatically going to make that option, that choice. One additional setting here in the quick set, this could be where we select the mode. Now modes, depending on the printer model you are working with, modes can consist of the selections or settings of resolution, dot shape, number of passes, quality terms, unidirectional, bidirectional printing. There's a whole ton of different things, but just to name a few, that's what the mode can control. So depending on which profile I'm selecting, I might have a pull-down list here of a series of different modes, possibly different quality levels, different resolution settings. And so this one is just one profile, one mode, but when we see that option, this is truly where we select that mode. So we want to be aware of that. There may be times when we're looking at these settings and we do want to specify a certain mode, and that's where we would make that choice in the quick set. Okay, directly below that you'll see we have some sizing rules. Keep the source image as is, or if I want to, I can scale it by width or by height or by a pixel-based setting or magnification. I can also change my width and height here or break the link and disproportionately scale it. And then you'll notice there's a checkbox, reduce size to fit page. Page being this roll size on the far right side of the screen. I'm defaulting to a 36-inch roll, which has an imageable area of 35.6 inches. This would reduce any file that was larger than that, 35.6, and it would bring that into being that size, reduce it down to that size. So I can also control my number of copies, my rotation based on 4 standard degrees, mirroring my image, or reflect that print time. If I turn that checkbox on, my print preview over here on the right is going to reflect and show the information of that mirroring at that time. I can also control my bit depth if I want to use just 8-bit or 16-bit processor, or my smart 16-bit processing. If I'm working with a multi-page PDF file, I could submit my pages as individual jobs, and then I would see them appear in the queue as individual files coming in, and not necessarily one complete file coming through. Okay, made up of multiple pages. So different settings. On the left-hand side, we're going to talk about this later in another class that we're going to talk about for color management, but we can control some presets for our color management. Our default is all ITC profiles on, and when I click on the Change Profiles button, I can see what these presets are going to dictate for us as far as our embedded rendering intent or our input profile, okay? We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into our color management section. We have a section here for cutter options, so I can specify a certain cutter model and set up controls for how my cut data is going to take place. So again, we are going to talk about cut information as well in another series. I'll get into more detail with that, just to show you that we have a lot of controls in this quick set. Again, the quick set is going to control how we are ripping our files. There's also at the very lower left, put the job on hold for the operator. By the way, if we do this, there is a setting in File, General Settings, that you can tell hold jobs not to rip or to go ahead and rip and then go on hold. So there's another little caveat you can control there. Now, this is just the main screen. If you click on the Advanced button in the lower left corner there, I'll pull this aside, you're going to see you've got more options. So the first one we see at the top is cropping. I can say apply cropping, and I have to give it some type of dimensions. I can move the slider, I can type in values. Maybe not as naturally feasible as you would be looking at this in Job Editor, but if you knew what your sizes were and you wanted to maintain that, you could apply cropping here. And under patterns, we have our colorways and our step and repeat. This has to do with our textile feature in ONYX. And textile feature allows us to control stepping and repeating of an image. I can control how many horizontal, how many vertical instances that it will copy or step and repeat. I can also offset this information. I can put a gap around it. There's all sorts of different controls for my textile features. And colorways would allow me to identify different separation colors if I was to do that within my file, within my separated file. So this is really going to be something specific to working with my Patterns tab in Job Editor, which is my textile features. So we can control those settings. I might have a quick set specific for step and repeat or colorways. In my tiling setup, I might have a quick set enabling tiling, and then I can control all the feature sets of tiling automatically. In color correction, I may go through and in Job Editor do a color replacement and then export that out as a color filter and import that color filter here and let that attributes apply here, the color filter replacement. And then we've got our finishing controls. I might turn on my bleed settings, control my amount of bleed, the type of bleed that I want to work with, additional space around from my bleed, non-printing areas, my trim, and different mark controls. I also have grommet controls that I can set for top and bottom, across the top and bottom, or left and right. And then I've got my regular registration marks. I've got registration, which you see as red, or crop for the corners, or an outline. And if you would like a label, our default quick set, as you see here, does not have the label enabled, but we can turn that on. And when we do enable the label, it will print at the bottom of your print along the bottom edge. But you can click on Setup here, and you can control what you want to be part of that label. Any of these fields you see here are things that you can activate and turn on and set as part of your label. All right, so I'm going to turn that back off. So just to kind of say, there's a few basic settings in here. The print workflow options gets a little bit more advanced. For the most part, our default settings are the types of settings that are going to be maybe the better thing that you're going to be doing as far as working with the default. Okay, good. So we've got a question. Are these quick settings in every driver? Yeah, every printer will have its own set of quick sets. Absolutely. Like I said in the beginning, some printers you might want to accomplish a certain type of quick set. Another one you might not, and they can totally be different. Yeah, you always have a default, and from there you make what you want in those printers. So I might be working with a flatbed, and I could say, well, for that flatbed printer, I'm not going to have any quick sets that would do maybe grommets and stuff like that, because I'm not working on a banner. I'm working on hardboard material. So they definitely could be different, absolutely. So the controls that we have in the quick sets that we see here, a lot of times, like I said, workflow and outputs, these are more advanced options. The defaults are fine. However, some things are redundant, you'll notice. We can tell this to do a rotation, which we had in the main screen. Whatever we see as far as our information here goes with the rotation on, in this case, 2 different panels or number of copies, print that reflect that print time, those things are going to be working off of both panels. So if I tell it to rotate here, it's going to rotate on the main page and vice versa. They kind of affect each other, right? They're one live area. Job ticketing data, I can enter in any job ticketing data, which this information you see in the very beginning. So maybe I go ahead and I'm going to cancel out of here, and I'm going to make a new quick set. And maybe this is going to be a job ticket for one of my accounts. Maybe I'm working with a company that's called, let's see, Vacations Are Us. How's that? And so for them, I want to indicate in the job ticketing field a certain order number, and maybe we always start out with their numbers coming in as 1, 2, 3, 4 dash, and the company name is Vacations Are Us. Just trying to come up with something quickly. off the top of my head. And maybe this is going to be, Tim Miller. And I've got a phone number for reference for Tim. And maybe I say, call Tim for pickup or something like this. Whatever I type in here could be a starting point of some data. And then when I click OK, and I had that in my quick set, I now could go in and bring a file in. And when I select that, here is where I choose that quick set. So now you'll notice, as default, in the upper right corner here, default did not have any of the job ticketing data here, right? No entries. I could type this in manually. I could put in my own information for sure, absolutely. But if I pick that preset quick set for Vacations Are Us account, and I already have set in there some job ticketing data, you'll see that auto-populate. And maybe my idea was, well, I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, and after that becomes their special part code number, and that's what their number is. And now I add to that number from my specific job ticket or something to that matter. I could add and modify to this, but at least it gave me the preliminary type of situation to begin with out the very gate. So now I've got that information added. I click OK, and I'll have that information populate in my fields. So for that job ticketing data, since we're talking about this now, for that job ticketing information, I can activate my fields here across the top, and same at the bottom for my buffer jobs. I can activate this so I can see where my information is going to be when it comes time to actually go through and see that data or search for that data here in my filter. So I'm going to right-click anywhere in these title bars, anywhere at all, and now I can turn on those fields. So I can say order number, company name, customer name. I had notes active and the custom fields, and there was also due date and so forth. I didn't put anything in there, but there is. And now I can see what the information I populated in that job ticket is here. Okay, so here's my order number, my company name, and my customer name. And if I take a look over here, there's my custom fields and my notes. So this information is going to be stored to the job. It would print in my label, providing I turn on my label and I enable it to have all that job ticketing data. So if I go back into Configure Printer and I edit my Vacations Are Us, and I go into my Advanced button, into job ticketing, this is where I can see this information. If I go into Marks and I turn on a label and I click on Setup, this is where I can say, yes, I want to see all those fields. And now when I print this, the job ticketing information will be populated in the label. Now this information is just a helpful thing. It is per job, so I enter this in per account. If I'm always working with Vacations Are Us and my people just have to add at the back end some special code information, they can. This information that is in my job ticketing data is a searchable field within here. So in this filter, if I start to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, or if I start to type in Tim, or if I start to type in Vacations Are Us, Vacations is a filter, it starts to find that information. Whether the job is up here, ready to print, or whether the job is down here in the buffered area, if I put some information for job ticketing data, it's going to search there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'll take one of my files here, and I'm going to click on Archive to put it to the bottom. And if I double-click my job, which is Job Properties, this one I'm going to add some custom fields and make something a little bit different for this account. Okay. All right, just to put a little bit of data in there. So now, as I'm seeing my information, let me get that back down to the bottom archive. I had it set to go back up. here's my information. I can still right-click and activate those fields for my bottom area. So I might have that, I might have my custom fields in here. And now if I search and I start to do the filter, Sue, or 12345 or 12000, you start to see the jobs start to filter through there. So this information is, this job picking data is strictly optional. When you open a job, you can have it preset in a quick set, and they'll populate the data. I purposely left 1234 dash, and then every day the people working on the jobs could add its own unique call-out numbers, whatever it happens to be. Or default doesn't have any in there. Actually, I just added this part in there now, so I've made a modification. But default doesn't have any job picking data. We can just manually add in what we want this to be. Okay, and this information is going to stay with the job, but also it's staying with the job. But then also the information in these fields could be something that we access through Hub. So Hub software. I'm not sure if you guys heard of Hub software, but Hub software information is something that you would be able to track. How many jobs do we print? How much percentage of usage do we have? How much waste? Hub tracks the jobs, and Hub tracks media usage and consumption of materials. And Hub would also be tracking this job ticketing data as well. We would see that information in there. And then I'm also not sure if you guys are aware of this one. We have under File, View, and you've got Printed Job Log. And then in the Printed Job Log, which I've deleted and reinstalled this morning, so my data is all clear, but you would see this information in here as well, information that you have in your tabs. Okay, I'm going to go back into Configure Printer, and I'm going to delete this quick set. Okay, so I'm working with my IPF 8000S. If I go back into my other printers, like the Arizona, and I go to Configure Printer, you'll see I made a couple of different quick sets here. So one point I want to have is, I want to make with you guys, is when we go to Configure Printer, it's going to depend on the printer we're selecting. If I select my Arizona and click on Configure Printer and say yes, see at the top here, I'm specifically looking at Configure Printer for the Arizona. If I go to my 8000 and Configure Printer, I'm specifically looking at that, and I only got default here. Okay, so we're getting a couple of messages in the chat field. What sessions will review the use of quick sets with color filters? We'll talk about that. Let me look here. I probably can get into that today as well to show you that process. But for sure, tomorrow, when we get into the 1 o'clock Central Time session tomorrow, color management from input to output for color replacements. I can show you that here though as well. We'll be getting into that in a moment. So when we take a look at this, ripping our files, selecting our data, whenever I go to Configure Printer, it's stopping my process and it's working on just that one device. But however, to the left of Configure Printer, you have Edit Quick Sets. And in Edit Quick Sets, we don't stop our processing, and we can look at all of the printers in one single click. But remember, your only option is to edit. You cannot make a new one. So that's the situation that you got to be very careful about. You're only in here as a kind of an edit command. If you want to go in and do something major, like you'd have to go into Configure Printer, and now you get the full quick set information here of controlling new ones, copying, deleting, and so forth. Okay, so another thing to mention to you is that when we make a new quick set, we are essentially copying default. It's under the hood. You're not even aware of it. So as soon as I say new, here it is, and I can set something up, and I'll have that new quick set. But this is really making a copy of default. So let me show you something. If I go into default and I edit, and let's say I always want my labels on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my advanced options, marks, and I'm going to enable my label. Okay, so when I do that here, in my default quick set, I'm just going to leave it plain like that. Whenever I say new, if I go to advanced and I go to marks, my label is already enabled. My point in all this being is if there's a commonality, a common thing you want to apply in all of your quick sets going forward, you always want labels. Edit the default, and whenever you say new, the new quick set is going to copy defaults automatically. It just does, that's just what it does. And then from there, you're going to have that preset already enabled. All right, so I just want to point that out. Now I'm going to go back in and edit my default and disable those marks, that label. Okay, so just to show you, we can always say open. If I'm back in my Arizona, open, pick a file, and we can choose the quick set. As soon as I choose this quick set to do a certain command, and I select my file, bring this into my RIP, the file's going to come in, and it's automatically going to have those attributes applied to it. Okay, so quick sets are the instructions by which our file is going to RIP. Quick sets are also hot folders. So let me show you that dynamic. If I go into Edit Quick Set for the shortcut here, I'll pull this aside, you can see how my IPS 8000S just has default. So where we go in for our structure here for our hot folder is in the main RIP software, so I'm installed on my C drive, so I got drive 19. I'm going to go to a folder called Input. I'm going to go specifically to my printer. So again, someone had asked that question that yes, quick sets are specific to printer models, and they can be different. So I'm going to go into my Canon IPS 8000S, and this level, everybody, right here at the very top, this level is default. You see this info folder. You do not go inside that info folder. What you would do for this hot folder is, and it depends on where you want to share this out. Maybe you want to share out from the input folder. Maybe you want to share out from the printer level. But when you share these out across your network, okay, they got your sharing properties. When you share these out across your network, you're sharing this information out, and then a Mac or a PC is able to create that, keep that shortcut, map that drive, or mount that volume on the desktop, and they're going to drag and drop their files into those hot folders, and those hot folders are going to act just like if I said open, pick the file, and then pick that quick set. That's exactly what the hot folder is going to do for us. So I'm in my Canon 8000S, and at this very top level is the hot folder for default. I can take this image. I'm going to copy and paste because I'll be moving them out of that folder directory, right? So I want to copy and paste. If I return right away to the RIP, here comes my file, and it's ripping. Okay? So the idea is this. For the hot folders, when I said paste, the file comes in, begins the process. There it is in the background. You can see stone number 2. It begins the process, rips the file, and is ready to go. If I paste again, I'm putting a third copy of that image in there, comes into the hot folder, begins the process, and goes into my RIP software. That's my default quick set, everybody. This top level is my default quick set. Okay, when that processing takes place, the input folder begins to rip the file based on the instructions, in this case, default. When it is completed, it moves it to the work directory. So what I want to show you here is input and work folders are connected, related. They work together. Input is really the source file hot folder of the quick set. The file goes into that folder, and then when it's processed, it's moved into the work directory. So if I go ahead and I investigate this work directory, let me come down here. Hang on, I lost my cursor. My mouse is getting seizing up here. Whoops. All right, it's no fun. Let me get that back again, hang on. So if I go to my work directory, I go to my IPF, all of these files you see here, even if they're down here in the buffer queue like hydrangeas is, all of these files in the work directory are what is in my printer. So this is my Canon 8000S, my Canon 8000S, okay? That's all my jobs. They all live in this directory. So it's a self-managed directory. If I come back into my RIP queue, I'm just going to minimize this a little bit here so you can see side by side. If I select all the instances of that stone image and delete them, yes, all, if you look to the right, that directory is going to remove them. There they are. They're gone. So the point I want to make is, as we see this information, the hot folder is interacting just like our QuickSet file open. Our QuickSet is acting. So the hot folder is nothing more than an executable script, right? Input, Canon, and here I am. This is my default level. The hot folder contains an executable script to perform an action. In this case, it's just default, but it could have been apply bleed or grommets or tiling or color filters, labels, whatever we want to do. Whatever it is we're doing, that QuickSet is a hot folder. So I want to show you in the other example, if I go back into inputs and I go to my Arizona, okay, and then here I'm going to go back to my Arizona. If I go to open in the Arizona printer, I actually have several different QuickSets here. There's a rotate 90. I could bring that into my queue. The file is going to process. Now, inputs for my Arizona, here's my rotate 90. So now we see the hot folders by their names, okay? Before we just had default, and again, this top level is still default. So I'm going to kind of stage this over here a little left and right-ish so you guys can see. I'm going to copy this image, and then I'm going to go into my Arizona's hot folder, rotate 90, and I'm going to paste at that top level, paste. The file comes in, begins the process, moves to the work directory, and in the background here, you can start to see my desert moon, and lo and behold, it's a rotate 90 all day long, right? It's rotating that file. So the idea is the hot folders are the same as the QuickSets, but in another fashion, in another style, I can share these across my network, educate my design team or desktop people or customer service reps, and say, hey, when you want to go to the Arizona with a file that the job calls for bleed and grommets, take your prepared file and drag and drop it in that folder. It's appropriately named. We're educating you and training you on what this folder does, and now you'll know what the outcome is going to be. It is a way of working remotely where people could automatically be dropping files into these hot folders, and they're coming into the RIP and processing. And then the RIP operator is back here seeing files populate accordingly. Okay? So I'm going to go back into Configure Printer, and actually let me go back here to my 8000. So in Configure Printer, I'm going to make another new QuickSet here, and this one I'm going to be media specific. I'm going to turn off my Get Media and Page Size from Printer, and I'm going to go look for something different here, and I'm going to say perfect, backlit film. So I want a QuickSet which is going to be using or calling out backlit film media type. And I'm identifying it here. I'm not saying get media and page size from printer. I'm saying process to this profile, media profile. All right, there it is. When I go to my folder and I go back into my 8000, there's my backlit film. So now if I open up that folder and at this level I paste my file, Desert Moon. It begins the process, and it's going to rip it for, you see it right here, backlit film. So now, medium mismatch, it's not going to print. And if you look over on the right, it's not in my print preview queue. So I could even sort or organize my quick sets based on the information that I have to be a specific printer type. Okay? So that's another thing that we can do. We can have something sorted and organized for those types of reasons. And now, again, I'm educating my desktop team or whoever they are, and I'm telling them what all these different folders mean. And when I go into these folders and drop your files, copy, paste your files, information is going to go in those folders and come into the RIP and act accordingly. Now let's talk about inside of a hot folder. This is a quick set, 2-inch mirror bleed with grommets. If I double-click that, this is really the level I copy and paste or drag and drop my file to, but let's talk about this info folder. All right, this info folder, as you can see, is the instructions, the code of the hot folder, of the quick set. I am not going to edit this information here. This is prepared data that came from the RIP. When I said new quick set, and I configured it in a way where I had my mirroring on for 2 inches and my mirroring type is a bleed, and I activated grommets, it wrote this instruction set. Okay? So this is not the folder info. This is not the folder you want to go into. You just want to go to that very top level and paste your data here. Drag and drop your files here. So this info folder is really just further instructions about that quick set. And that's why you see info here, because this is the default level. If I go now to my other printer, my Canon 6450, I have not made a quick set for. All you see is default, and that's this top level right here. All right, so let me take a quick peek here at the chat. Can you review the creation? Yeah, oh, I will. I'm going to get into that too. Okay, so now that you get a little bit of an idea, input folder, printer specific, then here is your hot folder or quick set. It's going to perform a certain action. We put our file into that level, paste it into that level. So I'll grab something different here. Copy, paste. And now, as I'm seeing, the file's coming into my RIP for that backlit material, and it's going to say medium mismatch. It's waiting for the material. And actually, it'll be size, too, because it's bigger than my roll size. So the idea now is going to be that I can control these quick sets or hot folders, share them across my network, and have someone give me files, which are in turn going to automatically come across into my job queue here. Okay, edit quick set just lets us make a very fast edit without having to stop our processing. And it also gives me all of the printers available right here, and I can go into those different printers and apply different commands. Configure printer would stop my processing. And again, if you're ripping or printing, you don't want to go in there and stop the processing. It'll stop your ripping or your printing. Let's talk about a few other things here. I'm going to go into my Canon printer because that's a fresh kind of file here. Fresh printer. I haven't made any quick sets for this one yet. If I open a file directly into my job editor, open in job editor, in some cases, of course, we can see a bigger visual of this, but in some cases, you might go into job editor and you might do something like this. Go to the finishing tab, and you're going to enable your bleed, and maybe you want a, oh, I forgot my roll size. Let me go back and scale this down a little bit. I'm going to just process this down to a smaller size. So maybe I come in here and I say, okay, I'm going to put in here 1-inch bleed. That's a mirror image. And you start to see the image mirroring itself. Instead of mirror, I could say pixel duplication. Duplication just takes that edge pixel and repeats it out. Or I could even say color. It'll be white by default. First pixel is the upper left corner. Or custom, and I can type in a recipe that I want. Right there. Perfect. All right. So anyhow, when I go in here and I create this in Job Editor, I'm doing a mirror area here, and I say, okay, here's my information. This is where I want this to be. I'm going to save this as a quick set. I could go to File, Export as Quick Set. In this page, it's additional settings. In addition to what I did, just a 1-inch mirror bleed, do I also want to put the job on hold, submit pages of individual jobs, rotate, mirror it, scale it? I don't want to do any of these additional things. I'll just say save. And now I've got a folder on my desktop where I put all my exported quick sets for training, right, just for demonstration purposes. The name is the name of the file, Desert Moon, which that doesn't explain anything to me. I can say 1-inch mirror bleed. Now notice how I didn't use, for the word inch, notice how I didn't use my double quotes. I'm a very strong believer in clean naming conventions. So alphanumeric, underscore, hyphens, and space bars are acceptable. I don't even, I just like to try to keep it as clean as possible and spell things out. So you can use a dash, a hyphen rather, you can use an underscore, a space bar, that's all fine. To me, I wouldn't use the double quote lines or any of the other items on there like ampersand or pound or dollar symbol, forward or backslash, things like that. Just don't know what's going to happen to the file naming construction on a computer, Mac or PC, okay? So either way. So I'm keeping the name very clean, but I'm putting in this folder. I'm exporting out these settings as a quick set. Save. Now, I'm pretty much done with this file. I'm going to submit this to the RIP. It's going to rip and process this file with the bleed image. And when it's done, I will go back into Configure Printer, where my Quick Set tab is, and I will import that recently exported Quick Set that I just made. Okay, there it is, importing that backed up or exported Quick Set. When I hit Open, I get my list, I say Import, and there it is. Whatever I did in Job Editor, I said Export as Quick Set. I'm including that information, and now I have that here. If I select that and edit and go to Advanced, here's my bleed, 1-inch mirror bleed. That's all I did, very simple. I just did a very simple thing so you can see how that's being applied. Now whenever I go to Open and I make a selection, I can pick that 1-inch mirror bleed and apply it to the file. Okay, so the information, the properties are held within there. There's my 1-inch mirror bleed. So my information and my properties are applied there. Now let's take a look at another scenario. I want to talk about those color filters, color replacement filters, because I've got some questions about that coming through on the line. Okay, so now if I open up one of my vector files that I have, I'm going to go with the default quick set, and I'll open this up in Job Editor. All right, so now here's just a simple file talking about vector objects, okay, vector color information. If for whatever reason, and we're going to talk more about this when we get into the swatch books and color replacements, but if for whatever reason I want to modify the recipes that are here, okay, I can go into my color correction tab, Tools, Color Replacements. I can set up a new color replacement sample pair. My current color, I'm going to press on this sample button, and I'm going to select this cyan color. When it loads it to my palette, it immediately converts it to this desired color, which is all zeros. And now if I said, well, I know for sure that that's supposed to be 85 cyan, tab, tab, and 22 magenta, tab, tab. For those of you who are familiar with ONYX and the color replacement fields, notice I was able to tab through all those choices. That continuous tabbing was repaired in version 19. For the longest time, you would tab, and it would just bring you back between these fields. It wouldn't tab you all the way through, so that's a nice little touch. Okay, So let's say I know for a fact that that color replacement needs to be 85 and 22 to get the color recipe I need. When I close this, I now have a pair, a color replacement pair. So what I'm able to do in order to get this to work, because if I said File, Export as QuickSet, you guys might have noticed in red, note, color correction filters will not be applied. So I've got to do something a little bit different here. So let me make a note. I'm going to include that document. There's a document on our website about creating color replacements and doing exactly this. Okay, there's a document on that. I'll make sure I share that to my list for you guys. What I would do is I want to take this pair right here. When I double click it, I want to take this pair and export this out and put it as my QuickSet so that I can use it time and time again. So I could manually type this in, but I'm going to save this out as a setting. So here's the situation. Rules of engagement. This source cyan color has got to always be 67.5 cyan, 10.6 magenta, and 0 yellow in order for my 85 and 22 and 0 to replace it. As soon as that source color is a fraction of a percentage different, this color replacement pair will not take place. But let's say we know that this is a fact and it's going to always be that color. So what I could do now with this color filter is go to Filter up at the top left, Manager, Export. Do I want to apply this? Yes, apply it to my file right now. And now I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm just going to put it in my exported QuickSets. Actually, I'll make another new folder and I'll call this Exported Color Filters. Oops. Okay. So the name of the filter is going to be the name of the job, kind of like those QuickSets were a moment ago. But this isn't going to make much sense to anybody. So I might say, this is an account that I'm going to say True Blue Replacements. And all my people around me know what that means. We talked about this. True Blue Replacements. That gives me that true blue color. Now I simply just close out and click OK, apply that change and submit. All right, when that's done ripping, I'll be able to go to Configure Printer, stop my processing because my ripping is completed, and this is where I'm going to make a new QuickSet. This is going to be my True Blue Color Replacements, and you can identify the account, like whoever that account is, or whatever you want to call this. In the Advanced button, this is where I'm going to go into color correction, and I'm going to import and go to my desktop and find that color filters folder and bring in that dot filter extension. See how it wants that dot filter extension? Notice no filter selected, okay? Click on it. Now it's going to use that filter replacement. So at this point, I'm going to click OK. I made a new QuickSet and imported that exported color filter. So let's do that again. Spot color file. I'll use True Blue Color Replacement, and I'll open in Job Editor, and you are going to see when I go to my color correction tab, Tools, Color Replacements, there's my pair already there. Double click it, there's my properties, okay? So just to say, this type of thing is what you can do with a colored filter and have that applied to your QuickSet. And that's just a process build color correction cycle. I'm changing it from these values, 67. I'm changing it from these values to be these other replacement values over here. Again, rules of engagement, it has to maintain this first source color for it to swap out to the second color, okay? If the values are different, it's not going to apply because it's a very hard set rule. Okay, and you could have more than one in here. You might have another one for the green and the red and all that. You could have multiples, and they'll export out, and they'll be saved into one QuickSet. Okay, so when we think about our QuickSets, open, select a particular file, pick the QuickSet we want to work with, open in Job Editor or not, or type in additional fields here. We bring in this information. Let me go back I know that one was set to 70%. So if I bring this in, I get my information coming into the RIP to process. Here's my data set. It's using a quick set. Or if I go into my hot folder for that particular printer model, I can drag and drop or copy and paste my files. Here's my default quick set. It's going to come into the queue right there and begin ripping. And hot folders, our quick sets are hot folders. As soon as I delete a quick set, configure printer, as soon as I delete this quick set, the hot folder is deleted. So if I go to that folder structure, there it is, it's gone. 1-inch mirror bleed, grommets, or whatever I call it, that's gone. So you delete the quick set, the hot folder is deleted. If this window is open, configure printer, okay? This is us offline. If this window is open and I take a file and I paste it back into the queue, that file is going to sit there and sit there forever until we go back online. See how nothing's happening? I'm offline. So as soon as I hit OK, that file will process, and there it is in the background, preview number 1, it's bringing it in a second time. So keep that in mind. If you are in an offline state and you're using your hot folders, they're also paused, okay? They're offline as well. Until you go back online with your green circles for your printers, then it's back to being engaged again. Okay, so we can always open up a file in Job Editor, export as a quick set. Let's say I go to open up a file and I'm using this, let me go to a different printer actually. Which other one did I have? This guy had some stuff in there, right? Yeah. So let's say I say a rotate 90 and I bring in this file, rotate 90. So my hydrangeas comes in and rotates 90. Now I go back to open and I grab a different file. And I overlook the fact that this is set to rotate 90. And again, it could be any quick set, but I overlook this. And I bring in the tomatoes. And then suddenly I go, oh no, that was the wrong quick set. I didn't mean to bring it in with rotate 90, but I just got too excited with clicking and I went too far. So what do? Well, in this case, I could right-click the file and say, apply quick sets. And I can say what I really wanted to do is apply my 2-inch mirror bleed or the default quick set or tiling. And now it's going to reprocess that and it's going to apply the standard attributes for the file. Now you can also accomplish this in another way. You can bring this file open back in Job Editor. I'm going to go to the fruit image. And here you can say File, and you'll have the choice, Apply Quick Set. It's just above Export Quick Set. And I can say I want to apply, you know, my mirror bleed, maybe something like that. So now it's just going to apply the mirror bleed with the grommets that I had on. And now I submit that. So you've got a couple of different avenues here for working with your quick sets. Let me go into the chat fields here and see what you got your messages are here for. So let me go back down to the bottom. How well does that work with a spot color to CMYK convert? Well, if I bring in this file, I know that this file, I'll go back to default, and I'll open in Job Editor. I know that this particular file has 2 spot colors in here. And by the way, one more thing I want to kind of show you here. If you're ever wondering, I mean, I've made this simple file, a spot color named custom green, a spot color named custom red, okay? If you're ever wondering, gee, does the file contain a spot color? Up here at the top in Job Editor, you see this blue circle with a white I, letter I, job properties or information. Click on that, and then right here you got named colors. And this shows you the spot colors that you have. Even this one in the lower right corner is a spot black that I made up. So this will show you objects as spot colors, okay? Another place to go is back in the RIP queue. If you, let me go over here. What is that other job I had? Here. If you go into that object and you double-click or go to Job Properties, you also have named colors here, and you can see that list. So I want to point that out if you're ever wondering, hey, this should have contained a spot color. Maybe it is a custom name. Maybe it's a Pantone name. Did they give me the file? Is it there? You can tell here in these named color lists. So job properties in the RIP queue or job editor with the info. Okay, so let me go back to where I was here in job editor. So I'm going to go back and do that step again. Color correction, color replacements, a new replacement pair. I'm going to sample the source green. I'm going to modify the %. And I'm going to make a relatively big change here, I hope. Yeah, that's pretty good and dark. So that we can kind of see a difference that's here. Should I try to get a little bit darker? All right, so now that's my replacement pair. So I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm going to go to Manager and Export, Apply to the file, yes. I'll call this my green, custom green filter, the correction color, okay, and close, and okay, and submit. Okay, now when that's done ripping, I'll be able to stop my processing and go offline. Okay, so now I can say configure printer, yes, new quick set, custom green, color replacement, what the heck, right? Add all that in there. All right, now I'm going to go to Advanced and Color Correction and import that folder file I saved out, custom green, select it, and hit OK. All right, now let's test it. Let's test that this is working. Open, spot color, and use that custom green replacement. Go to Job Editor. And let's see if this works. Yep, it sure did. So if I go to color replacements, there's my pair. So the idea is as long as, okay, again, the rules of engagement, as long as the source color coming in, whether it's spot or process, has this recipe build, it's going to replace it. This is a very simple way, by the numbers, okay, by the numbers. If we did this as a Pantone color or a spot color, and these are custom green, custom red, I would change that in my print mode defined colors and identify it there. Now that for sure we're going to take a look at tomorrow. Tomorrow? Let me look here. Nope, actually we're going to take a look at that on Thursday, using swatch books to achieve brand colors. So Thursday at 11 o'clock Central Time, we're going to cover that. We talk about swapping out colors and replacing colors for spot colors, whether they're a spot color named custom green, custom red, getting a match through swatch books, or whether they're a Pantone color, you know, Pantone 185C or something, and we're going to want to match that through swatch books, and then we'll add the library in print mode defined colors. So that's going to be on Thursday. We're going to definitely get into that. Okay, let me take a look further here with the other, actually probably share. Yeah, the folder structure that you share out and or make this a hidden file. When we talk about those hot folders, in the input folder per printer model, right, backlit film, this info is the instructions of backlit film. We don't put the file into there. I probably could go to properties and tell it to be a hidden file and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, hidden, apply, you know, and then it's not going to be available, that type of thing. But that's not something that, you know, per se, you want to go doing in all your files, right, per se. I mean, if you got people out there that go and put things in different folders, maybe they just need to have a better conversation given to them to make them understand the importance of that. But yeah, that's the general way of how these things are working. So when we think about this, the hot folders and the quick sets are one and the same. When we make a quick set, it immediately makes a hot folder. If I delete the quick set, it immediately deletes the hot folder that's here. It's self-managed. Now, if you ever have an instance where your hot folder goes corrupt, you're putting a file into the hot folder and nothing's happening, and you're sure you tried it out on other hot folders and it works, it could be that that one particular hot folder has become corrupt. Then you should just delete it in the software, in the RIP, configure printer, delete that hot folder, and then recreate it again, okay? It doesn't happen often. I mean, I only have encountered a corrupt hot folder like years ago, many, many versions ago. Other than that, I have not had it happen to me. But again, you talk to the tech support guys at ONYX, they'll tell you more experiences with seeing those type of things happen. So that's the type of thing that they'll be able to help you with too. But yeah, for sure, you can always delete them. And again, like we saw, we could export this information out, select all, and export, and save this out as our backup. So I can go to my backup folder, and I can export this information out, and I can say, maybe I've got the updated directory for this, and I save that out. So when we talk about backing up data, exporting out information, we can back these quick sets up. It took you time to create them, to test them, to make sure they do what you want them to do. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to export them out and have a backup and save them. It might not be so bad for you to recreate them again. Maybe they're pretty quick, but just to say, this is something that you're able to do and get that to be as a backup, as a saved bit of data. Okay, so with the quick sets, we could always open a file into job editor. We can always associate immediately, a preset still open in job editor, and take a look at the information and say, yep, this information definitely has the bleed with grommets on there. I can accept it like it is and just say submit. Or maybe I want to make additional changes. I can make additional changes to that here. And even on that top of that, export that out as a new quick set. So this is the situation, with working with these bits of data. The idea is it's going to automate your processes, keep you consistent, and save you time. And that's the big part of it with the quick sets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be emailing you out a document here, which is a basic one on our website, ONYX, how to create the new quick set with basic settings in ONYX. This is just a very basic step-by-step, going into configure printer, clicking on new, and going through and making a new quick set. This talks about the settings and the controls that we have, cutter options, all the different settings in there. So this is everything getting through the definition list of those settings. I'm going to send that to you guys. I'm also going to send you the color filters one, which is just a Cmyk, the Cmyk swap. There's also a white paper on setting up step and repeat, which is our textile feature, step and repeat for how, 4 cross by 3 vertical or something like that. I'm going to send that out. And then I'll also send you out the backing up ONYX documentation again. And some of you guys went through the backing up in the previous video, but I'm WebEx, so I'm still going to send it out to you just so you have it. You can always discount it, so that's fine. And then I also have some links to our YouTube channel, ONYX TV, which is going to have some links to some of these videos. And that's another thing to point out, that when you log into your ONYX account, you do see the documentation tab here, ONYX documentation, and this tab is going to take you through and have a lot of different bits of information. Download, here's that white paper, and you can download it and save it. All right, and then there's also under ONYX videos. And the videos here, you're able to go through and watch once this updates. Give me a second here. There you go. You can watch the different ones. Step and repeat quick set. Here's a video on it. And you can watch the videos. We do have an ONYX TV YouTube channel, and I can't say that all of these videos are there. There's some videos that are in the YouTube channel that are in our ONYX video section, and then there's some that are not. So it's a bit of a back and forth type thing. YouTube is something that's maybe more global, right? So we're going to see other things there in different languages and so forth. And yes, the quick sets are also saved when you create the print-ins. They're backed up along with that as well. Yep, exactly. So, all right. So let me go through, and I'm going to stop sharing my desktop. If you guys have any questions in regards to information, what we talked about here with the quick sets, we can go through and have a little chat session. Otherwise, I'll see you guys online tomorrow if you're going to join on tomorrow. We're recording these and rendering them down, so it might take some time, but we'll get those out to you guys as well. I've got a list of your emails that Corey was sending out the initial invites to, so I'll have all that information, and you can pass that along as you need to. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time, we're going to take a look at preparing our cut files for the cut data, and we're also going to get involved with cut servers. And this is going to be ONYX's workflow with the cutter. So making a quick set for the cutter, working with cut server software, going into file managed cutters and exploring the cutter drivers options for marks and so forth. And we're going to get into all those types of things tomorrow with the cut data. And then at 1 o'clock Central Time tomorrow, we're going to talk about color management from input file to output controls in the RIP software. So this is all upstream. I have Adobe 1998. What does it do to it when it hits my RIP? That's our color management workflow we're going to talk about next time tomorrow, 1 o'clock. All right, thank you all for your patience and participation. We'll get this information out to you, and we'll see you online tomorrow. And I'll hang around if there are any other chat questions. All right, so there's no further questions. I'm going to go ahead and sign out and see you guys online tomorrow. Thank you.